China has recently announced massive stimulus. But why do we care about China? We're here in the United States. We care about China because if we look at what they're doing and the reasons why they're providing trillions of yuan in stimulus, because that gives us a better glimpse into what is going on with their economy and what's likely going to happen to other economies around the globe, including the United States. Therefore, it's probably pretty important to use them as a little bit of a glimpse into the future and what we may be seeing relatively soon. With that being said, let's get into it and discuss what's going on. First off, can I ask a huge favor of you? Please make sure to like the video with the big thumbs up button down below. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Also, make sure to subscribe down below as well if you haven't done so yet with the big subscribe button. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your support. And let's get into it and talk about China. Again, I know it sounds a little bit confusing, like they're way over there on the other side of the Pacific Ocean. We don't care about them all that much, but we do, because here's the thing. What a lot of these economies implemented over the last few years here, mostly back in 2020, 2021, a lot of the economies and the central banks, when I say central bank, I'm talking to the equivalent of the Federal Reserve. Here in the United States, we call it the Federal Reserve, but it's really the central bank. All these countries around the globe have a very equivalent Federal Reserve to them, but we all just call it the central bank. Well, the central bank in China basically just announced a massive stimulus in the amount of 2 trillion yuan. So obviously they don't have American dollars. They use Chinese yuans, and they announced 2 trillion of them. So they're basically stimulating their economy with 2 trillion. That's incredible, right? And again, why I said this earlier at the beginning of the videos, we want to watch them. Even if we're not located in China, we have nothing to do with their economy. We have nothing to do with, their money, their currency, things like that. We still want to watch them because it's the policies they implemented, which are basically the same policies the European countries implemented, the United States implemented. We all basically did the exact same thing years ago, and we're all doing essentially the same thing now, okay? So anyway, the central bank in China just released a couple days ago that they were going to be cutting interest rates by 50 basis points. Does that sound a little familiar? Sure does, right? Because what did Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve here in the United States do just a few days ago? Cut interest rates by 50 basis points, right? Sounds pretty familiar to me. So anyway, what they're doing is just basically they want to achieve a 5% growth or 5% GDP equivalent in their country for this year, 2024. Well, we're kind of right down to the wire, right? We're basically on the doorstep of the fourth quarter of the year. Well, they're basically coming in and saying, hey, how do we achieve massive economic growth? Well, we stimulate, and that causes growth, right? Which, by the way, the Chinese stock markets have been going through the roof over the last few days here with this announcement because people are buying like crazy because they know that when the central bank stimulates, like what the Federal Reserve does here in the United States, we know that equities, stocks go crazy when they stimulate because a lot of that money makes it into the overall economy. Obviously, that's the whole point of it. And it also flows back to valuations and, and stock prices and obviously margins, as in revenues. A lot of that money goes to businesses in the form of revenues. And therefore, they have higher incomes, higher revenues, higher margins, things like that. So at the end of the day, when the central bank does stimulate, it just boosts a lot of the, the different markets out there. So anyway, pretty big stuff here, okay? So that's why I want to talk about this because I've talked about stimulus many times here on the channel. I have a ton of videos here on the channel talking about stimulus, especially years ago when we got the stimulus checks distributed, things like that. But I've also had videos out where I've talked about, stimulus, and I've always said, every single time I come back and I say, it's always predicated on the economy. And sometimes down below in the comment section, I see people pushing back and say, oh no, it has nothing to do with the economy. It has to do with, the need to the people and stuff like that. And I come back and say, no, unfortunately it doesn't. It has nothing to do with the need to the people, even though we wish it did. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the overall barometer of the economy. Is the economy good? Is it strong? Is it growing? Is it contracting? Is it cutting back? What is going on? Is unemployment going up or down? Well, this paints a very, very clear picture of what China is doing, and they're making it very, very clear their intentions. We are stimulating to match and to reach our 5% GDP in the year of 2024. That's literally what they're saying, okay? They're literally telling us they want to reach their economic goals of 5% growth for the year. How do you do that? You stimulate, okay? Same thing that I talk about every single time. When we have a recession here in the United States, they stimulate. The whole reason behind it is because the economy's down. The economy's not growing. GDP is down. It's negative. 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP, and boom, there you go. That's called a recession, right? So what do they do during these times? When we see an economic contraction, a recession in the United States, same thing that China does. They dedicate a certain amount of money. They basically print money in the United States. They do it every country. They always print money. They print tons of money. All of these different central banks around the globe, these different countries. That's why we see some countries like Venezuela, Zimbabwe. What are some of the other ones? Turkey is undergoing some massive inflation as well. There's some other ones out there. Those are some of the ones that are coming to mind right now. But they get a little ahead of themselves, right? They get a little too excited and say, oh, let's print up way too much money. They print up a massive amount of money, then they have hyperinflation, and then their money becomes completely worthless. So, by the way, have you ever done this? I've never bought one of these. I really, really want to buy one. I just don't know why I haven't bought one yet. But you can go on eBay. You can literally go on eBay and you can buy like something crazy like $100 billion Zimbabwe note, right? So like the equivalent of like 100 billion or 10 billion Zimbabwe, whatever their money is called. I don't know what it's called. But whatever their currency is, you can buy like a huge, massive note, like, quantity wise, like 10 billion or 100 billion. You can buy it for like $6. It's pretty cool. But anyway, I've never bought one yet, but I really want to buy one just to have, because I think it's cool, right? Just super cool. But my point is, that is basically because they've inflated years ago. They inflated their currency into nothing. It was completely worthless, right? You always hear the stories, right? I mean, I don't know if these are true or not, probably not, but it's kind of more like a figure of speech. You always hear the people saying, yeah, we walked to the grocery store with a wheelbarrow full of cash to buy a loaf of bread. I mean, I think that's a little blown out of proportion there. It's probably a little bit of an exaggeration, but it's probably not too far-fetched, considering that's what happens with hyperinflation types of situations, is that central banks get ahead of themselves. They say, oh, let's print a whole bunch of money, right? That'll stimulate our economy. True, but what else does it do? It stimulates so much, it hyperinflates, and then as a result, the currency is worthless, meaning a loaf of bread is now $7,000. You see what I'm saying? I mean, that's literally like, that might be a little bit of an exaggeration too, but you get my point, right? Little things, because so much money has been printed, that then it hyperinflates. Everybody is flush with cash, and we all run out to the grocery stores, and we wrestle over packs of toilet paper, and we bid it up to, $3,000 a roll. You know what I mean? It's kind of the good analogy, and that's exactly what happens when these central banks get too excited. But they all do it. All these central banks around the globe, we included, the United States, print money when the economy's down, when the economy's not doing well, when the economy's maybe a little slower than we want. We do something called printing money, otherwise known as quantitative easing or Operation Twist, or, the CARES Act, basically what it is, or American Rescue Plan. They give it all these ridiculous names. Or here's a really good one. Here's a joke of a bill, Inflation Reduction Act, right? $900 billion. So my point is, they give it some fancy, cute name to disguise what they're doing. What they're really doing is printing money. What they really should call it is the Printing Money Act, because that's literally what they're doing. Hey, we're going to give it all this, this cute name here, and we're going to call it, Bailing Out America This Time Act. And then what they do is they appropriate, 100 billion, a trillion, $2 trillion. They print it, and then they say, here's all the different things we're going to give the money to. And within the legislation, they have like 17 different things. Again, it's just a whole pile of different things. And then they say the money's going to go to this, it's going to go to that, it's going to do this, whatever all that is, okay? So anyway, this message out of China, okay? Long story short here. What is this messaging out of China? Messaging out of China is economy is slowing, print money. Literally what they're saying. That's it. Super simple, super basic, same thing that every central bank does around the globe. When the economy contracts, print money, markets go crazy, money gets cheap. When I say cheap money, by the way, I said cheap money a couple days ago in another video, and I saw some comments coming in saying, I said easy money. That's what I said. I said easy money. And I saw a bunch of comments on that video, people saying, no, money's not easy. Money's never easy. What I mean by easy money is that it's just kind of a figure of speech. When central banks, as in the Federal Reserve here in the United States, the central banks in Japan or China or whatever European central bank, it doesn't matter. We're all talking about the same thing. But when they cut interest rates, that's kind of making it cheap money. In other words, the borrowing cost of borrowing money is getting cheaper. Well, when they loosen up, when the economy is very weak and the economy needs a lot of stimulus, they usually make things easier to get loans and to borrow money and things like that. It's just an analogy to say it's easy money. In other words, you can go out and get a loan relatively easy. You can borrow money relatively easy. It's easy money to acquire because they want to get that money doled out to get it into the economy quickly. Does that kind of make sense? So that's what I meant the other day when I said easy money in that video. And that's what I continue to mean by that, is just the accessibility of money. I'm not saying that the money's easy to get. I'm not saying that like you go out and you flip burgers for 3 minutes and get paid $3,000. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it's easy to acquire through loans and just borrowing of money because they're trying to stimulate. Does that kind of make sense? Right? So it's easier. They maybe make it a little bit easier. Actually, think of this. Back in, say, like 2007, 2008, you almost could have said that was an easy money time. Why? You walk into a bank and be like, yo, I saw this huge house down there on the corner. I want to buy that sucker. And they're like, well, what's your income? $20,000. And they're like, okay, I'm going to ask you again. I'm going to wink at you first. What's your income? Oh, 200 grand. Got it. You're approved. Got some money here, okay? Obviously, this is exaggerating a little bit, but not too far-fetched. Back then, 2007, 2008, a little bit earlier than that, when we saw the huge housing market bust, that's kind of what was happening. You walk into a bank, hey, I want to buy a house. Okay, you're approved, right? Basically, everybody was getting approved with no income, like no verifiable income. And that was super easy money, right? It was easy to get. Well, you saw what happened there. Massive foreclosures, the market tanked, bad situation overall, not good policy, but it was something that was happening, right? Anyway, when it comes down to China, use this as just a little bit of an alert. Hey, wake up everybody, let's watch what's going on here, right? Economy in China not doing great, and therefore they need to stimulate. And they all do the same thing, okay? So if anybody, out there is saying, oh no, they never stimulate when the economy's bad, they stimulate and give stimulus checks when we want money. Not the case whatsoever, right? I mean, if that's the case, if they were to give stimulus checks out every time we wanted money, I'm not sure about you, but I want money every day. Every day I want a money. You know what I mean? I want a stimulus check every single day. So if that's the case, then they owe us about, I don't know, years, decades worth of stimulus checks. You see what I'm saying? I'm not sure about you, but I'm pretty sure you probably want money every day too. Maybe not every day, but probably every week, probably every month, definitely every year. You probably want something, right? So there you go. Does it kind of make sense? Right? All right. So anyway, I want to leave it at that for now, but just want to share this with you, and no stimulus here yet as of now when it comes down to what's currently going on, but just stay tuned here and I'll keep you posted. Anyway, hope this helps you. Again, please make sure to like the video down below. Big thumbs up button. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Otherwise, subscribe down below as well if you haven't done so. Totally free to do so with the big subscribe button down below. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Otherwise, check out the other videos here on the channel, about 5,000 in the video library. The ones I've hand selected for you down below in the description or the top of the comment section, and right now showing up on your screen as well. You'll see some videos there. Thanks again. Really appreciate it. Have a nice day. Take care, and I'll catch you in